That something was wrong. Late Tuesday morning Iona approached me, sensing my distress. "Thomas, you look terrible, did you find out anything?" she asked quietly, trying not to draw attention to herself. I nodded slowly. "It's worse than we discussed, judging by your demeanor," she remarked, almost anticipating it. I nodded again, trying to contain my frustration. "I'm sorry, Thomas, really," she expressed sympathetically. "I'm ashamed. I'm the one who brought this to your attention." Her German accent lent a solemnity to the word ashamed. "Don't be," I reassured her, feeling a surge of determination to get through this ordeal without you. "I'd still be in the dark about my situation." I gave her a simplified explanation, watching her eyes widen in shock and then soften with understanding as I summarized what I had learned, sparing her the graphic details. By the end of our conversation, tears were welling in her eyes. Fortunately, we were in my office. Being in a more public area would only have attracted more attention. I couldn't help but wonder if anyone at the company was aware of William's knowledge about the affair. I suggested we meet for dinner that night, unable to maintain my composure if I revealed everything over dinner. We agreed to leave shortly after work, as she only had 4 days left on her internship. Later that afternoon, Mary, our office manager, gave me a strange look in the hallway after lunch. She spent hours talking to William. I feigned productivity for the rest of the day, watching both men closely. I had developed a trust in Damon, my new lawyer. After several conversations this week, as well as with Mel, Damon's part of the inner circle, I informed my investigator, "What's the latest intel? How is it worse than what we've uncovered?" Norm's next words jolted me out of my week-long confusion. "They'd been discussing the possibility of eliminating you in about 3 years, he revealed." Damon and I reacted in unison. "What?" Norm explained further. "Not immediately." Norm explained further. "Not immediately, but they've been talking about orchestrating your demise in a few years, dividing your trust among themselves." Stunned, I processed the chilling information. Norm continued, "Their method hasn't been finalized, but poisoning through your food has been considered, possibly by your wife." Shock replaced my initial disbelief. "The upside is they're still in the planning stages," Norm added, revealing Roger's involvement as a chemist capable of concocting a lethal compound. I struggled to understand my wife's involvement, but why did I protest? We are married and my assets are hers too. Why resort to such extremes? My anguish was evident as I grappled with the betrayal. Norm shrugged, emphasizing how people often make foolish decisions regarding money. He reassured us. I discussed further details with Norm, who provided Damon and me with the thumb drive containing additional evidence. Damon outlined his plan for the coming week, which included preparing divorce papers and taking legal action against Candace's workplace. That evening, I confided in Iona, who was shocked by the ordeal I had endured. The following days passed in a semblance of normalcy, though tinged with paranoia. Thursday, Norm summoned me to a meeting where I found Damon already present, his expression grave as we sat down. I sensed impending bad news. Norm revealed that my job performance had suffered due to personal issues, prompting my boss to involve Candace. My heart sank as I realized the extent of her interference, exacerbated by Norm's somber tone. Her boss, my lawyer, my boyfriend, and a few others in my workplace, I summarized with a hint of disdain. Norm confirmed, nodding sadly. "Yes," he replied, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. He invited Damien, my new attorney, to join our discussion to ensure he was informed of our next steps. We devised a plan to keep her unaware for as long as possible, giving me time to. We continued to strategize even as I received a phone call from Candace, which I ignored to keep up appearances. The next day we celebrated Iona's successful internship with a going-away party at work. In the evening, over drinks with Iona, I received a call from Mel suggesting a trip to see penguins near Phillip Island, emphasizing the need for nature and supportive friends during this challenging time. Grateful for the invitation, I asked if I could bring a friend. Her voice was filled with amusement. Her name is Iona Sheck, the one who brought me up to speed, I explained after arranging a time and place to meet. I hung up. Iona looked at me curiously. Did you just ask me out indirectly by calling another woman? She teased, seeing the panic on my face. Iona laughed and reassured me. Relax, Thomas, she said, patting my arm. I understand you need friends right now, so where are we going? And did I hear something about penguins? The next morning at 7:30 Iona and I met Damien, Mel and Colleen at a gas station outside of town. I was surprised when they arrived in a bright yellow 2019 Mustang. The roar of the V8 engine impressed me as they pulled up next to my own 2020 Volt 8. Looks like someone new. I had good taste, Damien quipped, greeting us. After a brief introduction, we hit the road. Damon joked about the joy of two big 58 by the time we reached Phillip Island. I was beaming with Damien's racing spirit, and Iona's joy added to the fun of our trip as we sang along to Spider Bates' rendition of Black Betty. Spending the day with the penguins was delightful. Although we've all seen them before, penguins never fail to charm, and I enjoyed fish and chips for lunch. Grateful for supportive friends, towards the end of the day, Iona took my hand and it felt natural. Despite being married, I value fidelity. Half an hour before heading back, Colleen orchestrated a walk with Iona and Damon, leaving Mel and me behind. Mel chuckled and signaled that the ride home would be as enjoyable as the outing. I spotted a tavern ahead and informed Damon that Iona and I would be making a pit stop. We said our goodbyes, appreciating the time we had spent together. Surprisingly, Iona and I had a relaxed conversation on the way back, and when we reached the tavern, we settled in. For an early summer evening. As dusk set in, we ordered drinks and food and enjoyed the relaxed atmosphere. The atmosphere became serious, Thomas, she began, and I met her gaze. I had previously mentioned some basic details about Iona, who was now playing a crucial role in my life. Iona was born in Germany and immigrated to Australia at the age of 4. She had a penchant for numbers and was currently pursuing her graduate studies while interning across the country. Physically, she stood at a petite 5 feet 2 inches. I can guess the gist of your conversation with Mel. You're going through a tough time and right now you need a friend more than anything, she said, pausing hesitantly. That's what I want to be for you, a friend above all. But as we've grown closer over the past few weeks, I've come to realize that my feelings for you may be more than just friendship. In fact, I'm certain of it. Do you know what I mean? Her sincerity touched me deeply. Even though she knew I was dealing with personal challenges, she expressed interest in a romantic relationship. You're an incredible woman, and you're right, I do need friends right now, but the truth is, in the midst of all this confusion, I found myself drawn to you as well, so I left my statement hanging. Life can swing quickly from joy to sorrow, and Iona experienced that firsthand. We spent the rest of the evening chatting about our interests, from movies to music to our mutual love of Mustangs. As we chatted, I told her the story of my family tragedy and the existence of my trust fund, which surprised her. After hearing my story, I shrugged and explained that my original plan was to gain experience there for a few years before starting an investment firm, a dream I had discussed with my late father, but their untimely passing led me to stay at the firm. The mention of my parents' passing sobered the conversation. I see a man who is focused but has no tolerance for fools. Despite his own humility, I chuckled, grateful for her words. Thank you, I replied. You are a good man, she continued, noting my composure in the midst of the turmoil. You have not lost your temper, unlike them, referring to my wife and her lovers. No, not as they planned to do to me, I replied grimly, unintentionally shocking her as she realized my slip. Iona was horrified, her eyes filled with tears. You're taking action, right? This must be a crime, she said, her grip on my hand tightening, concern etched on her face, almost as if she feared for my safety. I assured her Damien is handling it, everything will unfold next week. Everything will unfold next week. She released my hand, her voice almost hysterical. Your wife is plotting to eliminate you, she exclaimed. We continued to talk, and as we walked back to my car she gripped my hand tightly, anxiously scanning our surroundings. It's okay, Iona, I reassured her, squeezing her hand. We are safe, and if anyone is watching, I have a fast car, we can outrun them. Her laughter broke out. The tension in our conversation on the way home was subdued as I dropped her off. We shared a tight hug, and in a moment of vulnerability, I kissed her softly on the lips. Blushing, we both realized the potential of our relationship. I drove away feeling a sense of relief thanks to Damon, Mel, and Colin, but especially Iona. A few streets away, my phone rang. It was Candace. Baby, she said, where are you? She said worriedly, where are you? I've been trying to reach you. Sorry, Candace, I replied, explaining my day on Phillip Island with friends. It was a great day, I added, sharing the joy of watching Colleen with the penguins. They make you appreciate happiness in another life. I wasn't lying. Watching Colleen with the penguins was hilarious. She loved feeding them the bait fish. We bought some, and at one point a group of penguins followed her around looking for more food. You know, maybe we can start trying for a baby of our own when I get back. You've been nothing but trouble, Candace said. Yeah, right, I thought, have a baby so you can poison me later. See you later, Candace. How's the conference going? Did you go? I asked, changing the subject. Oh yeah, the conference went great. We really learned a lot, she said, oblivious to my suspicions. And yes, a group of us, including my boss, are going out for a few drinks. Don't worry, my boss is keeping an eye on me to make sure no outsiders trespass on my virtue. Sure, I thought, as if this woman had any virtue at all. I lost interest in the conversation, letting her talk while I tuned out. She ended the call with I love you, but I didn't bother. I suspected that Mary and William were up to something with Candace and George, but I couldn't figure out what. As the week went on, they looked at me less and less, which only increased my suspicions. In the evenings with Iona, we packed up my apartment, storing my belongings in a company shed for free. Candace's things were moved out, with storage paid for days, giving her time to sort out her affairs, reviewing the norms reports daily. One night, I accidentally showed Iona a picture from the report, causing her to rush to the bathroom and vomit, and when she returned, she was furious, expressing her anger at my soon-to-be ex-wife's behavior. Wife's behavior. Monday morning arrived, marking game day. The cheaters were expected back early. While I was set to leave for a month in KS North Queensland, I went to work as usual, attended a staff meeting where William announced George's return tomorrow. Mary's scrutiny caught my attention for the first time since my induction, prompting me to alert Damon to possible conspiracy charges just before lunch, declining an invitation to dine with the group. I quickly left, initiating a race on my laptop before I left, leaving my keys and cards on my desk, intending to resign with Damon's team to deliver the letter later. At the office exit, the company car driver greeted me and drove me to the airport. Iona bid me farewell with one of her chase kisses, and at the airport Damon and Mel saw us off. Damon gave me a new phone with a private number known only to a few, ensuring confidentiality. Flying business class on I to K, we enjoyed champagne on boredom. Upon landing, another driver escorted us to a cozy bed and breakfast for our first week stay, run by an elderly gay couple. The B&B boasted a stunning view of the sunset over the water. Our room with a double bed, attached bathroom, double shower, and jacuzzi tub offered luxury and comfort. The owners shared that they had recently remodeled, offering 2 king bedrooms and 4 superior rooms. On the way from the airport to the hotel, I received a text from Damien confirming that the deed was done. You're free now, turn off your phone, he advised, and I complied, feeling nervous as I settled in for the night with Iona. We both felt the weight of expectation, but it turned out we had nothing to worry about. After retiring to the bedroom, we drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Iona inquired about my well-being, to which I responded enthusiastically, I'm fine. Iona inquired about my well-being, to which I responded with enthusiastic praise of the night before. She happily confirmed that her plan had worked, and we reaffirmed our commitment to each other. Over breakfast, we enjoyed the cuisine and explored attractions such as the Detree Rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef. By the end of the week, I'd even forgotten about my cell phone, until Damon, Mel, and Colleen joined us with news of 9 more days of travel. Colleen joined us and shared news of 9 arrests in connection with the murder conspiracy, including some familiar faces from our past. I sat back in bewilderment. 9 people wanted me dead, I exclaimed, sort of. Damon explained they admitted no personal animosity toward you. In fact, they praised you as a nice guy, but they conspired to profit from your trust after your death, blaming each other. Everyone except Candace, who collapsed when she found you gone, as the divorce papers show, and is now under observation at Ramsey Hospital. I delivered your resignation in person, triggering the closure of your former workplace with immediate effect, for all their survival seems unlikely. Similar story at Candace's workplace, and I witnessed the arrest of Mr. Ranwick Johnston. Quite professionally satisfying, no charges against me, he added with a wink, and we chuckled. What about Roger? I inquired. He was also arrested. His wife was clueless. She thought he was on a business trip, not cavorting with a friend's wife. I offered to represent them pro bono. Damien shared. Mel playfully slapped Damon. Stop teasing, kid. We all chuckled, digging for more details. Mel. Iona blushed, then admitted, I asked him to hold me the first night. I made sure he stayed in the room. I kept him occupied so he would dwell on the situation. Damon ended up spitting coffee through his nose the next day, much to Mel's amusement. I just grinned like a Cheshire cat. Mel. They accompanied us for the next week, joining us on day trips, overnight stays at casinos, and even a light plane flight to the Daintree coast. They then returned to Melbourne while we flew to Brisbane, where Iona introduced me to her parents as her boyfriend, and I was happy to play the part. Although my name wasn't mentioned when Iona informed my parents, they nearly panicked until we clarified the situation. Throughout our trip, they were the epitome of honesty and trustworthiness. We explored Brisbane for a week, followed by another week in Sydney. Towards the end of the trip, we broached the subject of marriage and children. I assured her that once my divorce was finalized, we would become engaged. It was not a conventional proposal, but she understood, confident that when the time came, I would propose properly. She added that my period is due in a few days, so we'll know soon enough. She looked at me expectantly, waiting for my answer. Are you kidding? I laughed. No, I've been thinking about it too. I confessed honestly, I was hoping for an accidental pregnancy. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have a baby with than you. Unfortunately, she woke up the next morning with her period, and I kissed her with a disappointed look on my face, muttering, maybe next month. In the meantime, we'll have to practice a lot. As our vacation came to an end, we returned to Melbourne and stayed with Iona, who had convinced the landlord to extend her apartment lease for a few more months instead of heading north. Even though it was a small apartment outside the city, Iona was a little embarrassed after our months of staying in bed and breakfasts all over the country. I playfully teased her with questions about every little detail in the apartment until she giggled uncontrollably. I heard you were here, so I thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing and bring you some coffee, Mel explained with a sip of her own. Sensing something was amiss, Iona asked, is everything all right? Mel shrugged her shoulders, her expression betraying her concern. It's not. It's going too well, Mel. I'm not pregnant yet, Iona sighed, her disappointment obvious. Moments later, Mel accidentally spilled coffee on the conference room table, causing me to laugh. Sorry, I chuckled and explained to Mel that Ion and I had been trying for a baby for the past month. We just decided to see what happened. Mel watched us for a moment before changing the subject, asking about our presence at the office. Upon learning that we were house hunting, Mel readily agreed to help. She spent the next few hours helping us identify our preferences and needs, considering the possibility of accommodating a baby. Over the next month, we visited several properties, eventually settling on 3 apartments in one house. Iona conceded that it was my money, but I insisted that it be our home. Together, we chose a penthouse. The apartment itself was stunning, with 3 modest bedrooms and a spacious master bedroom overlooking Melbourne Park. The building boasted amenities like a pool, sauna, gym, and 24-hour concierge service. It felt like a luxurious hotel we could call home. With Mel's help, we furnished the apartment and transformed it in an afternoon. Within a month, we were settled in, a timely move since Iona's period didn't arrive that month. Later, Jonah is 6 months old and we have our baby boy. Our apartment is now adorned with soft baby-proofing on every surface, and we have fully embraced our new life as parents, turning one room into a nursery, another into a guest room, and a third into a home office. Iona and I have started a new investment company. We currently have a modest capital of a few $1,000,000, as I am still waiting for access to my trust fund in a few years. The contrast between Damon the lawyer and Damon the friend never ceases to amaze me. As my lawyer, he was a formidable force, securing judgments against Candace and my former employers, putting both companies into receivership, but with substantial liquid assets, ensuring substantial compensation for Iona and me. He also secured a favorable outcome for Roger's wife, who received the majority of her assets, while Roger received a 30-year prison sentence. I received a plea for mercy from William and George, which I promptly disregarded in front of Damon. He took great pleasure in dismantling my former lawyer during the trial. Although I hadn't focused much on Candace during the trial, she received a 35-year sentence without parole. Her parents were released from prison, and she is now living with her husband. Her parents were the only ones who expressed sympathy, but even their support waned when they learned the extent of her actions. The judge granted a divorce based on her offenses against me, expressing disgust at her actions and the havoc they caused. Per the prenuptial agreement, Candace left with her belongings and $155. She did not attend the hearing and was transferred to the medical unit of a medium-security prison. She requested a visit from me, which I agreed to in order to ensure that it would not interfere with the divorce proceedings. 6 weeks later, I found myself in a secure meeting room in the medical wing of the prison, ready to meet with Candace in the Stark room, a room characterized by a bolted table, chairs secured with chains, and the ubiquitous one-way mirror that seemed straight out of a crime drama. I sat and waited for my ex-wife to arrive. Candace looked disheveled, her usually neat brown hair disheveled, indicating a tumultuous state of mind, her eyes darting around, searching for something, perhaps reassurance or escape, yet when her gaze landed on me, a strange calm settled over her like a storm finding peace. Despite her disheveled appearance, she wore a faint smile, almost a mask of serenity. "I'm almost a week late, Thomas," she confessed quietly, her hand instinctively resting on her swollen belly. Then came her confession, laden with regret and sorrow. She spoke of never harboring ill intentions toward me, insisting that the coercion and manipulation of others had led her astray, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air as she revealed the pressure to act at a time when she had no choice. It was a revelation that pierced the thick tension of the room, revealing the complexity of her situation and the turmoil within her. Despite our estrangement, she clung to a glimmer of hope for redemption, clinging to the belief that our impending child could serve as a beacon of renewal. Beacon of renewal, her plea for forgiveness echoed softly, a fragile thread connecting us across the chasm of past grievances. Caught in the emotional whirlwind of her confession, I struggled to find words, my thoughts swirling with a mixture of empathy, skepticism, and unresolved pain. "Our baby will bring us back together once the baby arrives. I will be set free and we can. I promise to protect you from them," Candace pleaded, her words tumbling out in a disjointed stream. "You are my top priority, Thomas. The others were just distractions, interested in each other more than in me, using me for money. It's just us and our baby now." For the next 15 minutes she continued to express her desire for reconciliation and a future together, interspersed with moments of clarity and remorse. Tears streamed down her face as she acknowledged her mistakes and confessed her guilt. "I betrayed everyone, I was greedy and unfaithful, I even planned to harm you. I'm nothing but a wretched, despicable woman who deserves to be punished." Growing increasingly agitated, she bared her emotions and urged me to inflict pain on her as a form of retribution. In a moment of vulnerability, she revealed the pain of knowing the baby was not mine and the regret of her past actions. Feeling powerless, I remained by her side as she faced her demons. It was meant to be. To be yours, she repeated, her voice echoing with grief as the doctor stepped in to guide her toward stability. Candace reluctantly withdrew, bidding me a bittersweet farewell. "Live well, Thomas," she whispered, a poignant reminder of our shared past and uncertain future, and with that she departed, leaving behind a trail of remorse and unspoken longing. Later, the phone rang and it was Candace's doctor on the line, thanking me for visiting and informing me of Candace's delivery of a healthy baby girl. The doctor mentioned that DNA testing was underway to identify the father, and Candace, showing remarkable foresight, suggested that the baby be given up for adoption to ensure that she would grow up in a loving environment. Rather than navigate the uncertainties of the foster care system, that evening, still reeling from my encounter with Candace, I found solace as Iona gently laid my head on her belly, where I felt the gentle kicks of our unborn son. It was a poignant moment juxtaposing the newfound hope of impending fatherhood with the complexities of Candace's situation 2 months later. Later, our family expanded with the arrival of John Thomas, bringing both joy and a sense of responsibility. In a moment of compassion, I approached Damon and asked if there was a possibility of adopting Candace's daughter. After careful consideration, little Macy, Candace's child with Randy, became part of our family. Iona embraced Macy with unwavering love, treating her no differently than our own children. We firmly believed that children should not suffer for the mistakes of their parents. Our family continued to grow with our marriage a year later, followed by the addition of a baby sister during our honeymoon. And then a baby brother as Macy reached adulthood. We felt it was time to reveal the truth about her heritage and our history with her birth parents. It was a tumultuous week filled with mixed emotions, but without Mel's guidance, Macy found solace in the unwavering love of our family. Despite her frailty, she was moved to tears when she saw Macy standing in front of her, prompting a heartfelt moment of reconciliation and remorse in the visitors' lounge. Macy, displaying her polite nature, approached Candace, offered her assistance, and escorted her to the table. Standing back, I watched as Macy introduced herself, revealing that she knew Candace was her birth mother. Candace burst into tears again, although we had warned the guards of the emotional reunion. After Candace underwent a thorough search, we were allowed a brief moment of hugging, witnessing the heartfelt interaction between my adopted daughter and my ex-wife. Iona wiped away a tear, jokingly attributing it to pollen. My wife then led me over to Candace and we spent the next hour in conversation. Candace expressed her gratitude for my adoption of Macy, revealing that she had no knowledge of her daughter's life after giving her up. The act of adopting Macy seemed to have a positive effect on Candace's demeanor, as evidenced by her improved behavior according to the doctors. Although she still had some time left on her sentence, the prison reported a significant improvement in Candace's behavior since the encounter. Macy, at the encouragement of her mother and Aunt Mel, visited Candace on special occasions, fostering a connection despite their distant relationship. While I had begun to forgive Candace, it was clear to both of us that our relationship would never go beyond courtesy. For Iona and me, Candace remained the woman who had once dared to challenge me. Iona continued to guard me protectively, wary of any potential threats, showing her loyalty in subtle ways such as scolding in German when she felt someone was getting too close to me.